Military force cannot solve problems. Any military adventurism will only push the region into an unpredictable abyss. We call on all parties to uphold the purposes and principles of the United Nations Charter, oppose interference in other countries' internal affairs, and oppose the use or threat of force in international relations. The Chinese side hopes the US and other relevant parties will heed the calls of the international community and regional countries.
Tensions around Iran are reaching a critical moment. At the United Nations, China is issuing a stark warning, urging restraint as military threats intensify in the Middle East. Beijing says the use of force will not solve the crisis, warning that military adventurism would plunge the region into dangerous and unpredictable chaos. From Tehran, the message is even sharper. A senior aide to Iran's supreme leader warns that there would be no such thing as a limited strike. Any U.S. military action from any level or direction would be treated as the start of a full-scale war. Iran, he says, would respond immediately, massively, and without precedent. Iran's foreign minister echoes that warning, saying the country's armed forces are on the highest state of readiness, prepared to respond instantly to any attack on Iranian land, air, or sea. He says recent conflicts have only strengthened Iran's ability to strike faster and harder. Yet, alongside the threats, Tehran is still holding the door open. Iran insists it remains willing to accept a fair nuclear deal, one based on mutual respect and free from pressure or coercion. Officials repeat that Iran does not seek nuclear weapons and says such arms have no place in its security doctrine. In Washington, allies of the White House strike a different tone. Senator Lindsey Graham says President Donald Trump will stand by the Iranian people, insisting the U.S. president delivers on his promises. Graham says he hopes for a deal to end bloodshed, but again labels Iran the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism.
Donald Trump is Reagan plus. He's a man of peace, but not to be trifled with. So what did he tell the protesters? Keep protesting. Help is on the way. I hope he can find a deal to end the bloodshed in Iran, but Iran's the largest state sponsor of terrorism. They've killed probably 30,000 of their people. And here's what I think. When Donald Trump promises you something, he will deliver. To the Iranian people, President Trump has your back.
Behind the scenes, however, diplomacy appears stalled. According to U.S. officials cited by Axios, there are no serious negotiations underway between Washington and Tehran. Regional powers, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar, are quietly passing messages, but direct talks remain absent. Iran's mission to the United Nations says it is ready for dialogue, but only on the basis of mutual respect. It warns that if pushed, Iran will defend itself more forcefully than ever, pointing to the cost of past U.S. wars in the region. President Trump has added to the pressure, announcing that a massive U.S. naval armada is moving toward Iran and warning of far worse consequences if no nuclear deal is reached. Still, Iran's deputy foreign minister makes Tehran's priorities clear. Negotiations with the United States, he says, are not the focus right now. Iran's priority is full combat readiness. Even if talks were to begin, Tehran insists it would not lower its guard for a moment.
There's been no communication between myself and Mr. Bikov in the past few days, and no request for negotiations has been initiated from our side. Various mediators naturally are reaching out to us. Different countries are making efforts with good intentions to play a constructive role, and we are, of course, in communication with them. However, no decision has been made yet, and there is also a request from our side. If they truly wish for negotiations to take place, they must absolutely put aside threats, excessive demands, and the raising of illogical issues. Negotiation has its own set of principles. It must be from a position of true equality. It must be based on genuine mutual respect and for the sake of mutual benefit. If anyone intends to unilaterally achieve their objectives through the use of force, then that is certainly not what we call diplomacy. Our communications with them are continuous. They are regularly ongoing. Their ambassadors here are in direct contact with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I am personally in touch with the ministers. Just last night, I had a conversation with the Foreign Minister of Qatar, and this viewpoint, in my estimation, is shared throughout the whole region, that any military threat would inevitably lead to widespread instability across the entire region, especially considering the specific characteristics of the American presence in the region. I believe this shared understanding is prevalent throughout the entire region. The region is entirely opposed to any military threat, and everyone is convinced that any instability will inevitably lead to significant and major challenges for the region. Consequently, the countries of the region are strongly against this entire situation.
As warnings multiply and diplomacy falters, the standoff between Washington and Tehran edges closer to a point where words alone may no longer be enough. Tonight, the world watches a Middle East on edge as fears of a U.S. military strike on Iran escalate and major powers weigh in on the consequences. From Moscow, the Kremlin has issued a stark warning, saying a U.S. attack on Iran would seriously destabilize the entire region. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters that such a strike could be another step towards serious destabilization and urged restraint from all parties. He stressed that peace and diplomatic negotiations must be the only focus amid rising tensions. Reports from Israeli media suggest the United States has been preparing for possible military action, with some saying preparations are complete and a strike could happen at any moment. In Geneva, Iran's UN envoy signaled Tehran is bracing for every possible outcome, saying the Islamic Republic is prepared for any scenario, including aggression. Officials claimed informal messages have passed between Iranian and U.S. envoys, but they stopped short of calling these formal negotiations. Meanwhile, Tehran's military leaders have vowed a powerful response to any attack. Iran's defense ministry spokesperson warned that any U.S. or Israeli aggression would be met with a more painful and decisive response than previous conflicts. Iran's first vice president has also said the country has wartime plans ready, while reiterating that Tehran does not seek war but will defend itself fiercely if attacked. And in Washington, the U.S. is increasing its military posture in the region. The aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and its strike group has entered the U.S. Central Command CENTCOM area of operations in the Indian Ocean, part of a broader deployment of fighter jets and military transport aircraft amid rising threats from Iran. Earlier, the U.S. Navy released photos of a readiness exercise involving its air forces in the Indian Ocean during rising tensions with Tehran over the crackdown on protests. For Iran, high-ranking officials insist any American attack would fail, a message echoed by the judiciary chief, who said the enemy's saber-rattling would not succeed.
We possess extraordinary defensive capabilities. We are far more prepared than before. It is our duty and responsibility to defend Iran's pride, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. As we have shown before, against any aggression or threat, we will respond fiercely and comprehensively with all our strength.